G'day Bomber fans, tough practice match over the weekend, tough to watch for us at least, but it's given us fans a bit of an insight into the club and how the team could look come round one. So I have made my own best 22 for round one against the Hawks based on current form, ability, fitness, so you're not going to see Dylan Shiel or Kane Baldwin here. These are the guys that would be in contention for that game. I've made some pretty bold calls here as well, maybe reactionary after a poor showing, maybe they're fair, maybe not. Let me know in the comments what you think I did wrong. I think I'll probably ruffle a feather or two here with one or two picks. So keep in mind, I am just trying to personally find ways to get the most out of this list. I could well be wrong. I probably am. But let's just get into it. Alright, so the defense, it's pretty steady for the most part. I wasn't unimpressed by it against St Kilda considering we let it fall under the pump from the midfield. So no real changes in my mind except for the fact I think this back six probably needs another member on the bench. Well, definitely does. And that's why I line up with McGrath, Redmond and Martin as general defenders, Mackay, Reid and Ridley as key backs, and Jaden Laverty on the bench as a bit of both. I think what this back six gives you is real height from Mackay and Reid, both over 2 meters. Not going to be beaten much in the air, you would think. Mackay as well is obviously very strong in his body, so he wouldn't let a Mitch Lewis or Mubby or Chol bully him. Ridley is capable and very good forwards, but I prefer him freed up. That's why Laverty is a good 7th defender option. He can play on taller forwards. He's been doing it the last few years, but he's also been working on his craft against those on ground level. In a recent interview, he said he prefers playing on those guys, and it works against someone like Luke Bruce, for example, someone who isn't too quick on ground level, but is too good in a marking contest against someone like Andy McGrath, for example. I think that back six is pretty solid for the most part, if the inside 50s aren't coming in one after another, that is. I'm not worried about the back six itself, I'm worried about the team defense and how we defend a transitioning footy. And speaking of transitioning footy, Martin back there, that's a guy who I think we need the ball with more, clearly. I love Andy and his shutdown work and his pace. I love Redmond's drive, but they aren't elite ball users. Martin is. He's got a high footy IQ, so having him back there just makes sense to me. I think it's a decent back six. Not much I would change. Heppel isn't really in contention in my eyes. I think he's a beat off the mark, and this is coming from me, a guy who went out of my way to defend him a lot last year. I love Heps, but he just isn't really in my first team. No one is really in contention apart from the 7 guys I've already named. The midfield, Dersmer and Durham both on the wings. I really liked Dersmer against St Kilda. I thought he was our best on ground. I said that in my review video. His defensive efforts were incredible. He helped back a lot. And I did not love Durham in the middle. I think it's just a move I don't see working personally. He isn't that systematic stoppage player. He isn't someone who can repeatedly do the right thing over and over again and make the right decisions, the small decisions that impact so much. He's better using that tank to impact around the ground, throw his body around in the air and on ground level, and I think he does that best on a wing. So Durham and Dersmer on the wing, Durham back on his wing instead of in the guts. That's my ideal duo. The engine room, Merritt in the guts, Goldie, Ruck, Parrish and Setterfield below. I think Goldstein proved how valuable he could be for us. His craft is elite still. He was fantastic with his tap work to Parrish and Merritt. And Setterfield, he has to be that big body, especially against a team like Hawthorn who have some big guys. Newcomb, Nash, Day, although Day is not playing obviously, but that's a midfield I trust to get on top from an experience viewpoint. But Hawthorn's is just... they're younger, but I see them having the capabilities to bully us around with those big bodies, and that's why Setterfield's important. Our midfield is also one that has a lot more class to it, at least compared to Hawthorn. They're very tough and powerful, but not great by foot. That's where we beat them, I reckon. I have some more mids on the bench, but we'll discuss them later. I have tinkered around with the forward line a lot. I've changed it heaps since I last made a video like this. I hated the way it functioned against St Kilda. I just don't see how it's going to line up. It's so hard to tell because it just hasn't looked good at all. So I've got Gresham, Langford, Perkins, Hind, Wright, and Stringer. A few things to note, only 2 key forwards. I think Jones just isn't really at that best 22 level right now. He was very unimpressive against that solid St Kilda backline. He didn't really have any impact, and I don't think Nate Caddy would either right now against an AFL team. I think against Hawthorn, you want big, strong guys that can get on top of a pretty poor backline because Hawthorn's is pretty poor. And the best way to do that, I reckon, is to avoid clutter with an extra key forward and just rest Draper up there a lot. He's that mobile ruck who will spend a lot of time up the ground, allowing Goldstein to ruck in more stoppage situations. Sam Draper and Peter Wright up forward give you 2 very tall options for a poor backline to worry about. You got Frost, Sicily, whoever else is back there, I guess Scrimshaw or Weddle, I guess. I don't even know, but whoever it is they play with, they would have a tougher time playing on Draper instead of Jones or Caddy. Draper is that big, strong body who will at the very least make a proper contest. I don't see Jones or Caddy doing that. And then Langford, he's a handful who will probably keep the attacking Sicily accountable or play on a young, inexperienced Weddle. I think our forward line gets on top easier with those names. As for ground level, there are real worries here. I like Gresham. I think he's great. Stringer, if fit, would be awesome. It's that pressure forward I'm worried about. Menzies and Guelphy just haven't looked it lately. I reckon Nick Hind, for me, is the guy you want there. He is tenacious. He's really chaotic. He's not the most mature and composed player, but I don't really care about that if he's chasing defenders and putting pressure on. He's obviously rapid by foot, so that is my forward line. Onto the bench, Draper, as I've said, he shares ruck duties with Goldstein, but mostly plays as that mobile ruck. Jaden Laverty as well gives us more down back. Jai Caldwell, he is playing forward minutes a lot, but is a really capable midfielder as well. I would want his time mostly in the middle of the ground, obviously, but he does give us another option in the forward line if needed. Ben Hobbs, this is a guy you want at the contest against a Newcombe. He's a really tough nut. And I know I'll get hate for this, but my sub would be Jake Kelly. I just think against an immature Hawthorn team, you want an experienced head coming off the bench late. No one in this team is tougher than Kelly. You might dislike him, but you cannot question his toughness, and that's what you want late in a game. Someone who isn't afraid of a contest. I think other options like Sartas or Heppel or Nick Cox aren't going to go in as hard as Jake Kelly. And Kelly is also really versatile. He's been playing as a defender most of his career. He played both tall and small at the Crows. So he can replace a few injured players in certain roles. He's been playing wing most recently, giving another area for him to replace, and even forward at times last year. Someone like Kelly is great to have on the list because they can genuinely replace numerous different positions. I think at times last year we were found out because of poor substitute decisions, like Anzac Day, for example. That's a good one. Laverty got injured. We brought on Ben Hobbs, had to move Setterfield down back, which destroyed us in the guts. If we brought on Jake Kelly, for example, or a Jake Kelly type player, in that situation, he could have gone down back. He could have fixed that problem. Same happens if a wingman goes down or a midfielder or a forward. You can't really say that about other players on the list. I think Sartas will be a better player than Jake Kelly, obviously, but right now I would rather a versatile, experienced sub rather than a guy who can only really play one or two positions at most. So Kelly is my sub. The bench as a whole, Draper, Laverty, Caldwell, Hobbs, and Kelly, obviously. The team as a whole is decent. There are holes. I think we have lacked a good pressure forward for a while. I hope Hind gives us something there, or Menzies comes good again. He has been down on form a bit. Guelphy the same. I back Hind in right now for round one, but wouldn't be surprised if I change that around after the upcoming practice match. This could be reactionary after that poor St Kilda game. Same thing goes with our key forwards. If Jones kicks a bag against the Cats, then I'd probably feel inclined to change that around and bring him in for round one. For who is a tough question, though. I think our midfield, though, clearly lacks another proper player. That's an area we need fixed with someone who isn't on our list. You got Merritt, who is a star. Parrish is very good, but after that, it's a bunch of guys who only fans of the club really like. No one outside the club talks about Caldwell or Hobbs that much as capable players. They're promising, but not really guys you would want to back on grand final day. Setterfield is kind of that big body that we want, but really has nothing on the best in his role from other teams. We need another proper good midfielder before we can trust this team in September, I think. I don't know if you guys agree. Maybe we offer Wiedemann to the doggies for Bontempelli. There are definitely some guys in this best 22 I'm iffy on as well. Hind could easily be a different player. Laverty could easily lose a spot for someone else. I don't know how we can get the best out of Hobbs and Caldwell if we are fully fit in the engine room. It's hard to fit them in. And the same goes for Perkins now. He has so much potential, but right now he is playing the same role as Stringer, but with less midfield time. He could easily be on the outer if he doesn't play well this year. I love Perkins, but I think he's going to be a real player, but that's just the truth, especially if our pressure continues to be subpar in the forward line. Some guys that I toyed with having in the team, really an extended list of emergencies, I guess. In alphabetical order, by the way, no ranking, but Nick Bryan, third ruck in order. Nate Caddy, I considered having him in that forward line, but need to see evidence against an AFL team first, maybe against the Cats this week. Nick Cox, I want him to play somewhere, but I just don't know where he fits in. It's such an issue. You almost want a hole somewhere that he can plug so he can play and find a position, but I don't know. Cox is so talented, but almost too versatile. He isn't a solid enough player in one given role to be in this best 22. Davey, Guelphy is just not a hand of Hind for me. Heppel, I don't know. I think he's going to be on the outer a lot this year. On the list of emergencies, playing as a sub, who knows. Jones, he needs to force his way into this team through form because he didn't look good enough against St Kilda. Menzies, Sartas, and Wiedemann. That's it, though. Those are the guys that would be on the list of emergencies or around that mark. That is all, though. That is my best 22 or 23 for round one of 2024 against the Hawks. Obviously, this is probably going to change after the next practice match. It's a bit reactionary, but I think it's good for a discussion. Injuries taken into account as well. it's a tough thing to pick overall, so go easy on me in the comments. Let me know what changes you would make though. I would love a discussion down in the comments below. I reckon this will change after our next practice match, as I said, so I'll probably do one more of these before the season starts. Like if you enjoyed the video though, subscribe if you're new, and as always, go Bombers.